What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Diablo 4, the newer systems that they are actually mentioning in a few different video posts recently that have been coming up. We're also going to be talking about the release date that has been kind of leaked in a sense, but there's no official confirmation. It's just people have apparently the release date. So let's go ahead and talk about the reason why we're making this video in the first place. So there's a few different websites that post this, but over on IGN, there's like how do Diablo's 4's world tiers work. We've also got information on some of the in-game endgame systems, like in terms of the different tiers in the world, as well as how do the skills work and how do you respec. Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of those things. But first off, right out of the way, let's go over the release date. So this was posted over on GameSpot. I'll link all my sources down below, but for the most part, they're mentioning that the release month has reportedly been revealed to release on April 2023. Keep in mind, take this with a grain of salt, it's just a reveal, as in it's not an official one, but someone is basically saying they've got this info over here, and then pre-orders will be starting in December, which will be coming with a beta that will be happening in either January/February. That's basically what a lot of these news sites are reporting on. Again, this is not official, so take it with a grain of salt. So that's all that's really there. Again, I'll post all the sources for that. And what I really want to talk about is the actual in-game systems. So starting right off, we obviously know that there is a beta that is currently going on as of right now. People that are in the beta cannot talk about the beta. So keep in mind everything that I'm mentioning, it's kind of like Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about it, but they have posted things on different websites, specifically in video formats where we can talk about them. So starting right off, as far as the world tiers work, as you progress in the game, you're going to be getting Paragon levels eventually, and you're going to be able to do harder content, which will grant you better rewards, and some rewards will only be available in these higher difficulties. So starting right off, the world tiers, it's just similar to if you play Diablo 3, we're talking like torment difficulties, or if you play Diablo 2, just normal nightmare hell. That's basically what it comes down to. There are several different difficulties, but for the most part, the end game actually adds a lot more complexity, which is what I want to talk about in this video, because a lot of you guys asked, what are your thoughts on this sort of thing? So here's what I know so far that I can talk about. So first off, they showed off the Paragon system. This is the Paragon system that's implemented in Diablo 4. Basically, it's a Paragon board, and once you reach certain nodes, because when you start progressing, you start leveling up your Paragon, you're going to get nodes. Most of these nodes are going to be +5 to like stats, or a very small thing that doesn't really realistically affect gameplay for your build, unless you're talking about a huge amount of stat points that are invested into, let's say, dex or whatever, and then maybe based on the amount of points into, let's say, dex, strength, intelligence, you gain some sort of a benefit off of a larger node that can be socketed inside of the tree. You'll see that they show off this little like socket here. We'll talk more about this in a second, because I got better things to show off that we can show off. This was actually posted over in the quarterly update, which I do want to actually show you guys really quick. So as far as the quarterly update goes, I've made videos on this, but here's a more well-rounded version of it. This is like a more updated version. So you start off in the very bottom of the gate, and once you unlock the other area, which is another gate, you'll be able to extend and create these extended Paragon boards, and you can rotate these boards to kind of get the things that you want a little bit faster. There's also these things called glyphs, which can be socketed inside to areas which have sockets that actually make more of a difference based off of more percentage of damage. For the most part, they don't really change up the gameplay that much, but there are legendary nodes inside of the Paragon tree that will be affecting gameplay a lot more. They showed this off, and I've made videos on it, but for the most part, you can do like extra % damage based on the enemy's condition, whether it's like bleeding or something like that, or you can have extra chance to do bleeding or frozen or vulnerable, like extra damage for the most part. But this is where I'm really hoping this game will add a lot more complexity to the game. Currently, as far as I'm aware of, there isn't something that's going to be like you remove your HP and you only have mana as your like main resource. Those are the kinds of things that I'd be interested in seeing. Keep in mind, everything I'm talking about is in the work, so maybe they can add this in the future, but that's something that I would personally like to see. If you guys are wondering, like, what are your thoughts on it? I want to see some crazy ideas inside of the Paragon tree, and hopefully they can do that. But what I can show you guys, which is really awesome, is the legendary. So in terms of crafting, because I've been asked, like, you know, what are your thoughts on like the crafting system in Diablo 4? Well, the thing is that how it looks like it's shaping up to be is you can get these legendary items, and there's also unique items. These are two different things. So how it works is you can take a legendary item and create it into what's called an essence. So you basically shatter the legendary, you get the essence, and then you can combine it with legendary items to get that sort of effect. So if you see a legendary item that you like, but maybe the stats on it aren't like the rolls that you want, right? Like in Diablo 3, we always want like crit hit chance, crit hit damage, maybe cooldown reduction. Those are the stats that we're looking for, and we want to put it onto a different item. You could do that. That's really cool. That's a double thumbs up, because I've always liked this idea of being able to have a unique item, as you know, Diablo used to call it, or if you played Path of Exile, it has some really weird thing that you can slam onto another item. That's cool, because sometimes certain legendaries or unique items, they roll with like really bad stats in the very beginning, but you really want to keep it. So I like this idea. You just basically kind of transfer it over because you're shattering it. So I like this. Now, they show off some other ones over here. If you guys want to, feel free to go ahead and pause this at any point, because I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, because there's a lot to go into. But there's other legendaries over here, like when you stand inside your own damage and ground effects, you increase the damage they deal by 27%. So this is kind of cool. I like this idea of having legendaries that work with different classes, not very specific things that are only for, like this one over here, like Ring of the Three Curses. We have meteor gains a 45% chance to critical strike damage bonus against vulnerable targets. So some of these are based off of some sort of condition that needs to be met, which is something I kind of want to talk about, because I haven't heard anything about RuneWords. Now, I've covered this extensively in previous videos. If you guys want to see some of these other videos, feel free to go ahead and check them out. I'll have them linked down below. These are 3 years ago, but I had all of the legendary items that existed in the game. I had all of them covered. These were coverage from BlizzCon, so yeah, obviously we could share all this info because it was live from BlizzCon. But nonetheless, if you guys want to see all the legendary items, because like I said, I'm going kind of fast here so we can cover everything, but you can see all the legendary effects over here. Now, they also had something called RuneWords, where you'd have a condition and an effect rune. I haven't heard anyone talk about this at all in terms of a Diablo 4. Maybe they're moving this back to maybe an expansion. We do know that they plan to have paid expansions for Diablo 4, and I would really like to see RuneWords make a return in some sort of a way. Other things that I do want to go ahead and mention, like I said, there are multiple quarterly updates that have all this information that I've already covered, but some of the things that I just want to highlight really fast over here for the video, as far as like new info. So I've already mentioned like the world tiers, but these are going to be gated. So what I mean by gated, and I think this is a good thing. So in Diablo 3, we had people that would be called leechers. Basically, they would go into a difficulty that they weren't really supposed to, and they would basically get carried by other people. Obviously, if it's your friend, you probably don't mind, but like if you're joining like some random game and you see someone that's like not high enough level or whatever the case may be, they have these like gated things that you need to actually progress to actually do. They mentioned it in one of their other videos, but basically you don't have to worry about people basically leeching. But I like this system. It's like once you complete a certain, like, let's say greater rift tier difficulty, you can do it. But in this sense, they're like gated with like some sort of like a boss, which is actually a cool idea, I think. And in terms of like the gameplay that I've been seeing, in terms of like what is in the game currently, the game is more grounded. And they mentioned this specific term grounded a lot more with like the color usage, but mostly I'm looking at the game's speed. They mentioned specifically they don't want people to be able to have, in a sense, max CDR. You're going to have Wrath of the Berserker, or if you play Diablo 3, like Vengeance on the Demon Hunter, and you're immune to all CC in the game. They want this game to feel like when you get hit by something or stunned, you can definitely notice the stuns in this game via any of the gameplay that you watch. They are quite long, and I think that that could be a good thing if you played Diablo 1. Like when you would get hit by certain traps and stuff, like it was a big impact when you just open up a chest, especially in the very beginning, or you get hit by a certain like trap that had like an arrow shoot through like the wall. And I think this is kind of returning in some sort of sense. It looks, that's how I get the feeling, at least by their wording. So if you're looking for like a Diablo 3 sort of playstyle, I haven't seen any gameplay footage that has been released that's like basically deleting content by like screens of enemies. Like if you played the GOD, the Gears of Dreadland Demon Hunter in Diablo 3, like you can clear screens and screens super fast. That doesn't seem like the direction that this game is going in, but who knows, maybe later down the line we will figure out a build. And you know, as a content creator, I like to do build guides that just show off the most powerful build. So if there's builds and you guys do want to see that, subscribe. And yeah, when the game drops, I will share that with you guys. But it seems like they want this game to be a little bit slower in its pace. And then also what was mentioned in the game in terms of respecking. So this was actually shown off in like one of the IGN videos, but what it comes down to is if you want to respec your character, like you want to change, it's not like Diablo 3 where you can just be like, oh, I just want to swap this, change this rune, right? You're going to actually have to pay gold. They actually show this off, and I actually should show this off as well. So in terms of respecking, so you have these points, but you'll see that there's gold right here. Gold is used to actually respec your character, so at least there's something that you use gold for. In Diablo Diablo 3, I mean, technically you can put it in so when you do the Greater Rift, right, you get an extra roll on the gem. But for the most part, this looks like pretty much the skill tree, at least as of right now, where you can have like your skills that are the squares, and the circle ones are going to be basically passives. Basically, plus damage reduction, just passives that you don't really have to really take into consideration. Some of them, it'll be like when the enemy is under this state, it has some sort of bonus. But this is looking like the skill tree for the game. You can see Paragon unlocks at level 50, which is a separate tree, which I kind of mentioned the Paragon board. But it looks like it does branch out. You can see over here it does branch out a little bit. But in terms of re-speccing your character, can you just do it on the fly? It's going to cost more gold as you progress. And what was interesting is in one of the IGN videos, I believe it's one of these. Like I said, I'll link them all down below just in case any of you guys want to check them out in its full entirety, but I'm basically giving you guys a summary. So what it comes down to is you can respec, obviously, with gold, but at some point it's going to cost too much to the point where you might just have to roll another character of the same class to get a different playstyle. Which is kind of an interesting thing, and I'm curious to know how you guys feel about it, because like in D3, you can just go to the armory and just swap to a completely different build. Maybe you want a build for PvP, maybe you want a build for specifically doing world bosses that we know about, or a specific like dungeon, right? Or if you have a solo build, maybe a team build, those are certain things that you'll have to take into consideration as well. You might just have to make 3 different rogues, you might have to make 3 different barbarians, one for each sort of a playstyle, and depending on how long it takes to level up, because if you guys have played D3, if you know what you're doing in Diablo 3, you can get a friend and just be like, hey, yo, can I get a power level? And in literally like 10-15 minutes, you could be max level with all your Paragon points ready to go. So it might not be that big of a deal. Again, that's something that we'll have to wait and see on the final release. But in terms of trade, nothing else was offered that was like new information. This is something that I'm really excited about. Like I'm hoping we don't have to go to a third-party trade website. I know if some of you guys that maybe follow me for Path of Exile, I like Path of Exile, and it's kind of weird that a lot of times we have to use like these third-party like applications, and if you're playing console, you won't have access to these. So in terms of trade, I would really like to see some sort of evolution of trading. They mentioned that some items you can trade, some items can never be traded. What are those items? Well, we don't really know yet, so to speak. So hopefully that will be announced really soon. But in terms of an official release date, there's nothing official in terms of a brand new release date. So basically, that's what I want to cover in this video in terms of like the news and information that's been coming out. Because like I said, a lot of Diablo videos have kind of surfaced up, and I want to kind of sum it down into one video that we can talk about. But eventually, when the open beta does drop, we'll talk a lot more about other things in the game. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on any of the news and information about Diablo 4 that we talked about on the channel. And if you have any questions, as long as I can answer them, I will answer them, because obviously the BlizzCon stuff we can talk about, but there are certain things in the beta that's a Fight Club rule where we don't talk about it yet. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you want to see more news on Diablo 4 as well as other action RPGs, because hopefully Path of Exile 2 will be announcing its beta very soon. Subscribe to the bell and you'll be informed. But take care. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.